International Women's Day. And of course, this year it will not be exceptional. Besides doing it only once a year, this year, the Tulips movement is making it really special. So we will roll out a year events with a different theme each month. And the idea is to invite women leaders who are inspiring, empowering, and transforming it in achieving successful career, social, and personal development to share their journey of dare to challenge on the effort, the sweat, the pushing back of boundaries they face while building and climbing the career ladder, and how they rise again after every fall. To start off on this actual day of International Women's Day, we present you with an up close and personal session with the creme de la creme of a corporate women leader who has dared to challenge the status quo and break boundaries. We are going to immersing into an interesting and exciting conversation between two powerhouses, fabulous Datuk Jake and Datuk Yasmin Mahmood, unearthing a truly inspiring and empowering icon who has risen to the very top and shattered the miracle glass ceiling, not once, not twice, but many, many times. I have to tell you this. We had a dry run a few days ago. Just by listening to both of them chit chatting, it is enough, yeah, to drive me crazy. I never had a session that is actually too close with these two powerhouses. In fact, yeah, it is our privilege, yeah, to be in this room, this Zoom room. Today, you can actually see them, yeah, close up. So now, let me first introduce, yeah, our interviewer today, a very stellar Milo, Datuk J. Abdullah, a veteran in Malaysia media and entertainment scene, yeah, with a career spanning over 3 decades, yeah. He is one of the pioneer of the Astro, where he started his career as a music director, announcer at Hits FM in 1996, yeah, where he rose, yeah, from the rank and in 2013 was promoted to the CEO. Yeah, I have the privilege to meet him once and MC an event, yeah, for Tulips Converse. I have to say that he is truly inspiring. All right, so now, and our special guest today, the very elegant, smart, I have to say that she is actually
Wendy, you're on mute. Wendy, you're muted. Wendy, you're muted.
okay. So to start off this actual day of IWD, we present you an up close and personal session with the creme de la creme of the corporate woman leader who has dared to challenge the status quo and break boundaries. Yeah, we are going, yeah, into an interesting and exciting conversation between the fabulous Datuk Jake and Datuk Yasmin, unearthing a truly inspiring and empowering icon who has risen to the very top and shattered the mythical glass ceiling, not once, not twice, but several occasions. So it is our privilege to have both of them, these two powerhouses, with us in this afternoon. So let me first introduce our first interviewer, today, the very stellar Milo, Datuk Jake Abdullah, a veteran in Malaysia media and entertainment scene with a career spanning over 3 decades. He's one of the pioneers of Astro, where he started his career as a music director, announcer at Hits FM in 1996. He rose from the rank and in 2013 was announced and promoted to the CEO. And our special guest today, the very elegant and smart, I have to say that she is someone fits into the beauty with brain. Datuk Yasmin Mahmood. She is a much sought after global thought leader in digital economy transformation, consultancy, and implementation throughout the Asian region. Throughout her illustrious career spanning over 3 decades, Datuk Yasmin had served both the public and private sectors, including top leadership position in Microsoft Malaysia, HP, Dell Asia Pacific and Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation. Presently, Datuk Yasmin serves as a non-executive roles, including as chairman of Post Malaysia, the National Postal and Courier Company, and advisor to SkyMind, a global leader in deep tech, artificial intelligence. And she is currently the chairman of Harold Watt in University Malaysia Board of Directors. So I need your drum roll, please, to invite, yeah, and give the biggest applause, yeah, to our two very fabulous Datuk Jake Abdullah and our speaker, Datuk Yasmin Mahmood. Over to you, Datuk Jake.
Thank you so much. You can hear me loud and clear, right? Can you hear me? Great. Okay. Firstly, I think Wendy, you set us up for a lot of pressure, like talking about the dry run and all that. So we've got to live up to this expectation. Number one, I'd like to thank Tulips for this invitation. I'm really flattered. Conversations with Dr. Yasmin Mahmood, whom I actually realized that I've sat into a couple of panels with. Fantastic woman, very vocal, and I learned a lot from you also. Wendy has actually given your whole resume there, so I will skip that. But very interesting enough, I must say that you from GM of Hewlett Packard to chairman of Harriet Watt, it's been such a long journey and such an accomplishment. Just run us through this journey very briefly if you can, Dato.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jake. It's so nice to see you again. And thank you, Wendy, you're right, like Jake, now I feel the pressure already. She has teed us up. So when she was rattling all that, I said, what are you talking about? Oh, me, okay. So we'll try to live up to the expectation, Wendy. But first of all, happy International Women's Day. To everybody, to all the wonderful women out there. And thank you, Tulips, for inviting me. I have been a fan of Tulips. I really feel, I really love what you are doing, and I'm happy to have supported you in the past. You've been around for 1 year, and I've been supporting you through Raja Azura. I don't know whether she's in the call today. And I hope to continue to support you because I truly am inspired by what you do. So, okay, so today, unplugged, right? So Jake, you said it's unplugged, so I got nothing prepared. So you want to tell me the journey. So I think I always start by saying that I'm a small town girl. I'm from a village, in a small village called Kampong Jias in Pasir Mas, Kelantan. So I'm a Mek Kelantan. So
Kecek Kelantan.
Oh, boleh kacak Kelantan, makan budu, the food. my native tongue is actually Kelantan. So yes, so I am, my parents were teachers, so I'm not cikgu. I'm very proud of that my parents were teachers. And I am a science geek. I've always loved science. And that was how I ended up having one of the pioneers actually to have taken computer science. So I took computer science and applied maths in Australia. And I came back and started working in the industry. And I've been in the industry for the last 30 years. So that is how my journey has been.
So during this 30-year journey, there's been so much, how do you say, transformation, digital transformation. There's so much changes, especially in the last decade. It's been so rampant. How do because I tell people, people always ask me, hey, you are Gen X, how do you actually keep up with all this? So I'm not going to give your age away, but how do you actually keep up with all this? How do you empower your mind? How do you actually learn new things? How do you unlearn the old habits? And how do you keep doing this?
Yeah. I think a couple of areas. I mean, first of all, because I love science and I love learning new things. So, and by, although I grew up, I took computer science, but what I learned in school is not relevant at all right now. It's all being replaced with new things. So you just have to, a lot of people in my age have said that they are left. I mean, they are no longer, they no longer can relate to the digital natives. A lot of the people, the millennials, they are called digital natives because they grew up with this, whereas we are what we call digital migrants. So I feel that I'm in the best position because I understand the digital natives, I understand the technology, and how do I keep up with it is through reading, through immersing myself. Right now, I'm really intrigued by the world of AI. I'm not really about the big advice, but really about what technology can do for people, right? So more of the impact of technology. So I think you just have to be immersed in it. And technology now is so easy to use, Jake. When I was growing up, I had to be, I had to use punch cards to do programming, coding that people now use cut and paste. During my time, we had to really use punch cards, assembler kind of coding, and then we got to write our codes, and then we got to send it out for it to be compiled, and the compilers were supercomputers that were the size of like maybe half the size of a hall, half the size of a hall, but with the same computing power that we have in our smartphones right now, right? So things have changed so much. And I always say that I have been through the waves of innovation. I was there when Bill Gates, believe it or not, when Bill Gates announced that this vision is for a PC on every desktop. That was a huge thing at that point of time. Because computers were in the back room, huge ones. They said, okay, it will be in on your desktop. It was a big thing.
Yeah,
and then,
I remember this was in '96 when internet just got into 95, 96 in Malaysia, and nobody thought it would reach this height.
It was like the thing, yeah. And then when the mobile phones, the Motorola mobile phones, I was one of the new users. It was this size. It was about this size.
It was a weapon, actually.
So things have changed, but things are a lot easier right now. I mean, through your phone, you can touch, and so it's a lot easier now to actually get onto the bandwagon of technology.
So, I mean, cutting to the chase, how hard has it been, being a woman to reach these heights? Because I don't think we are on par with those developed countries here in terms of gender equality and stuff like that. But in Malaysia, especially, or in Asia, how hard has it been? And maybe you want to express a bit about that.
I've had my battle scars. Obviously, I went into the industry which was predominantly male. I've always been the first woman of almost everything, and I say that with a lot of humility, also pride, but with a lot of humility, because not only I wanted to do it not only for myself, but whatever that I did, I wanted to make sure that it actually paves the way for others. So one of the stories that I have, which really sits with me until today, was working in the multinational. And multinationals are a lot more conscious about equality and about diversity. Over the last 30 years, the first 15 years for me was so lonely. I had whatever challenges that we are now talking about: prejudice, biases, sexual harassment, you name it. I've been through all of those, and the first 15 years was something that you can't even talk about it. You just have to just find a way to live through it and to thrive through it. Now, the last 15 years, the conversation were emerging. You have to start, you start talking about it, and that was when I wanted to make a difference in a way. And back to the example that I was giving, it was with a multinational organization, and I won an achievement award that allowed me, that the prize was a trip to Brisbane. And it was an all expenses, business class, 5-star hotel, but it was given to you and the spouse. And at that time, I was in the interim whereby I was a single mother, and I wanted to bring my parents, but the policy was only spouse. So I fought it, and I said that, okay, you are assuming that everybody has the happily ever after kind of life. Not everybody has that. So I pushed for it, and eventually they relented to say, okay. Initially they didn't want to, and I tendered my resignation because of that policy. And of course, when I tendered my resignation, I went back and I said, oh my God, what did I do? I was a single mom at that time. I'm now happily remarried, but at that time I was a single mom, and I said I needed this job. But luckily, they also went and said, oh my God, what did we do? Because we're going to lose her. So we came to a compromise whereby they allowed me to go, but it wasn't a policy. It wasn't a policy. It was just an exception. And I said, no, I didn't want to accept that. But I said that, okay, I will not resign. So but I didn't go. I didn't go. I said, okay, because of just, like a protest, I didn't go, but I still had to take my parents because I promised my parents I'll take them. So I took my own money and stayed in a much, in a less luxurious hotel, but those are the kind of things that I felt I had to do. So it's not only for me, but I wanted to, and there are women like this, and they will pave the way for me as well. Right. And that was important. So my life is full of this kind of stories, Jake.
Well done on taking your parents. But could I go back to your origins again? You said you are Kelantanis, and I used to stay in Kota Baru for a while because my father was a railway man, so I speak a little bit of Kelantan. But one thing I know about the Kelantanis women are very, very independent, and in fact, they are the ones who are actually doing the business and all that. Do you think that is part and parcel to your independence, your state of mind?
Maybe, yeah, because my mother is really the big influence in my life, and she's it's a very matriarchal kind of family, so she makes a lot of the decisions. But she being the like typical Kelantanese woman would position it as the father's decision, So yeah, I mean, having strong role models to me is very important. I think without my mother as a strong role model in my life, I don't think I would be where I am, because it needed a lot of resilience to have had to go through all the things that I had to go through.
Excellent. So we are celebrating International Women's Day, and it'd be great to get your views on how the women of today and future can prepare to tackle gender bias, especially in Malaysia. And do you see this improving in Malaysia, gender bias, gender equality?
I get asked that question a lot, and I also think about it. So the answer to that is, Jake, yes and no. Yes, because the conversations now are becoming more open, right? So, for instance, when I was growing up, I remember one of the statements from my boss was that we were called sweet young things. I was called a sweet young thing, and
harassment, if you look at it this way in now.
Well, but it was like a very, very sweet young thing in a very sweet young thing. You better send her to meet all those people. Just as an eye candy. But so and he was making statements like. You better don't get married very fast, because I want to squeeze every blood from you first before you start having babies. And you can't say those things now, right? But those days, it was said very openly, and there was nothing I could do about it. So in that sense, the awareness of gender, of diversity in general, the awareness of diversity, both as a social agenda and as an economic agenda. And I think that is the most pivotal thing that I have seen across. The fact that diversity and gender equality is no longer just about you being nice about something that you have to do because you should do it, but it's got a business imperative to it. Because there have been enough proof points over the years about how diversity will bring in richness and will bring in economic impact, either at a national level from a GDP growth or from an organizational level. And I personally I fully subscribe to it, Jen. I mean, in all of my career, the ones that I have really picked in for performance was when I have more than 40% of women participation. And the reason is because of the richness of diversity, and also because the world is now becoming so complex that you can no longer have this, one problem, one answer, and command control center. That's it. Somebody makes the decision and you go. Now the whole imperative about having richness in your thinking, going against the dangers of group thinking, has gotten a lot of awareness. And in that sense, it has changed. But we're still grappling with things like representation of women on boards. In Malaysia, we are still, talking about percentage of, we're talking about child marriages, so I think there's still a lot of ways for us to go. But I'm a glass half full person, and having had the journey myself, and I've seen the difference first 15 years of my life or my career and the next 15 years. And I'm hoping the next 15 years, with all the movements that we're having right now, with the Lean In movement, with the United Nations women empowerment principles, with Bursa making it as a business target to have women on board. So I'm hoping that we'll make some significant strides.
My worry is, it's great all these initiatives are taken, but I think we are skipping the impressionable age of children, because these things are programmed into your mind at a very young age, where else the schools, the centers, or the tertiary education, the high schools and stuff do not actually, and I generalize here, do not actually put into importance the gender bias and these issues. So do you think, from my point, when you were talking just now, I said, hey, some of my friends do still talk like that, so how far has it changed? And I think this is deep rooted into our upbringing, so
Exactly. So
yeah, carry on.
this is really about values, Jake. I don't know to what extent schools and education can do, but and because there are so many things that there's really on the agenda of schools, talking about are they teaching about the right history? Is there enough STEM emphasis? So there's a lot of things that schools need to be taught, but it's about subject, and then should they be going into soft skills? But you're trying to go into values, and I don't know to what extent schools and institutions can do. It's really about a family unit. It's really about upbringing. It's about the parents' role modeling. Like I said, for me, if my mother had not been that strong woman, I wouldn't be where I am. So I think that is something that but I think it has changed. It has changed in a lot of families right now. And in Asian culture is really, you have to acknowledge the Asian culture versus the Western culture. Sometimes when I go to international conferences, I get into trouble sometimes, because in international conferences, you don't even talk about work-life balance. You don't talk. They will say, why talk about it? Why do women have to talk about work-life balance? Why isn't the question given to men as well? So you're being biased to women. But in the Asian context, I'm not somebody that would accept. I still hold on to my role as a wife. I don't think I'll ever accept the fact if I work and my husband is a stay-at-home husband.
I wouldn't mind that, I wouldn't mind staying at home.
I think my husband wouldn't either, but I don't want that. So I think it has changed over the years, and I think now also is because two-income families is almost a necessity right now. So there no longer is the choice about women being empowered into the workplace. It is something that you have to. So it is accepted. So in a way, social economic circumstances has led the way for for the call for women empowerment.
Fantastic. So how far do you think we are away from countries like New Zealand or Germany or Sweden in terms of quality?
Far.
Very
I think
far.
we are still far from it. I cannot even imagine. I think right now I am just pushing for the fact that some of the basic stuff, like percentage of women in management, percentage of women on the boards. I think that we need to have more women in politics, as ministers.
Hang on to that thought, because I wanted to ask you about politics, but I'll save that for a later period. But we got a very interesting question from Datuk Alia, who says, what are some strategies that can help women achieve a more prominent role in leadership?
Well, this is something which strategies, like personal strategies, what women can do, right? So my advice, because I get asked this a lot, my advice would be, I think, two key things. And I think this is something that there's a lot of room for women to embrace. The first one is the whole concept about personal branding. This is not specific to just women, but men in general. But for women, I think it's more pronounced because women have a tendency to just say that, okay, I'm just going to do my job. And that, and let's say I just want to do my job and I will be recognized for it. But the fact that you need to brand yourself as to what do you stand for?
Could you elaborate a little bit more on what that actually means, personal branding?
Personal branding, it means, like, say, if you're in where I am right now, for instance, what am I known for, right? I'm a tech person. I am a person who have grown in this very interesting and future industry. I'm a tech geek, and I've got corporate and public sector experience, right? And I am now branding myself into the area of human capital development. That is why I chose the Harriet Ward University, was because of my passion into preparing the future leaders, right? What do women, but to be more practical about it, do women have social media presence? When you go to social media, what are your content about? Do women volunteer to speak at conferences? When I was with these multinationals, you have to raise your hand up to say that I want to do this, I want to do this, right? And you've got to put yourself out there, like writing articles, whether you are inside a corporate. I used to volunteer to just write articles about trends in Asia or challenges faced with certain technology in the emerging world, right? So I would, it's about, the Sheryl Sandberg's talk about leaning in. I call it put your hands up, so that people know who you are. You could have what you are good at, what you stand for.
So you have to be proactive and more as a woman to actually put up your hands and say, could I do this? And worry about the returns much later, right?
Yeah, I mean, everybody, it applies to everybody. But I find that, generalizing, of course, there are exceptions, women have a tendency to just feel shy about it. This whole concept of, oh, I don't want to brag about it. I mean, have you heard about this? This is a very common thing. They say that, okay, if there's a job posting of 10 requirements, a man would say, oh, I've got 7 out of 10. I'm all for it. And a woman would go, oh, I only have 7 out of 10. I'm not good enough, right? So that, unfortunately, I see that more often. I mean, it could be a rhetoric, but I do see it, Jake. I do see it all the time with my own people, with some very talented young people, young women who are so good at what they do, but just want to be in their shell. So I think the first strategy is to help them. And I do help a lot of women to get out of their shell, to get out there, right? So that is number one, the first strategy. The second strategy, I think is very important, is the fact that you've got to do this networking. I hate the idea of, mentors is good. But what we need to look for right now actually are champions. People, and when I say champions, are people who really know what you can do. I got to where I am and where I was through people who knew what I could do, who believed in my ability, and are willing to put their a stake in my ability to deliver. So, but if you don't go out there and consciously and proactively tell people and prove yourself and go out and do networking and find your own champions, then that will not happen.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially in this time. You're talking about marketing, actually, marketing yourself in your province. So I completely agree with you, especially in this time and age where there are so many avenues. Compared to 95, 96, you can, so that's really good advice. Coming back to MDEC, why did you quit MDEC actually?
Well, MDEC was a very high. Well, what I quit was because there was a change of government, and I wanted to.
I was politely getting to that now.
Yeah, I mean, every change of government, and I think they wanted their own people, so I just made way for new blood to come in. But
Mhm.
you know, it was 4.5 years in government, and I was not going to stay in government for long anyway. You know,
Mhm.
because my roots are in the private sector. Although it was very high profile in MDEC, but people forgot that I actually spent 20 plus years in the private sector before I spent 4.5 years in public sector. So I
Mhm.
wanted to go back to the private sector, and I also wanted to to take it easy, go semi-retirement. So now I do not do any executive roles. You know, I sit and I chair. That's what Wendy said, that sits on board.
Mhm.
I also have business ventures in Indonesia, which is quite exciting, but not because of the
What's that called? Future, sorry.
Future Ready Consulting is my company.
Okay.
And Future Ready, I mean, I've invested in some ventures in Indonesia, but now I'm keeping myself. I mean, with Herod Ward, this is my latest venture, and I'm so excited about the possibility of but the potential of really making a change in through my position in Herod Ward. I think Herod Ward is one of the hidden secrets or hidden gems in Malaysia.
Mhm.
So I look forward to that, and I'm involved in AI, this AI company called SkyMind. Also, very interesting venture. So Jake, now I just do what I want to do.
That's
I
fantastic.
just choose what I want to do.
You're living the dream. We've got an interesting question by Datuk. I mean, it says, do you believe women still have to work harder than to be recognized? Do you believe women have to work harder to be recognized?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that the concept of stereotyping and biasness, people don't talk about it as much now. You know, in the past, you are able to openly be biased, but right now you're not allowed to be biased anymore. But I think the level of acceptance also has improved. Still have a long way to go, but I think things are changing right now. And you know, the more women leaders that you have, like I as a woman leader, I'm very conscious about that as well. But I still do believe that women have to work harder, but also work harder at not just about the function. I think where women have to work harder is in the areas like I mentioned, in putting up your hand, in personal branding, in going out there to network. I mean, women are always saying, oh, I just, and it's true, because we do not have time to go and have coffee or play golf in the network. So I always say that women have to find our own version of networking. And I give us very, very practical advice to women about being involved in some associations, and also being, like writing and social media. Social media, like you said, we now have this wonderful platform to do what I call humble bragging. You know, I mean, we are also very shy about, a lot of women especially are also very shy about bragging, right? But because of social media, you can actually put up your accomplishments in a very non-bragging way. So the term humble bragging, by the way, is something that I think that everybody should learn how to do, and it is going to make a difference. Trust me, it will make a difference.
Okay. You were talking about a bit of politics, and from what I dabbled in the government for a year. Also, CEO of I Am For You, and it's very interesting because at that point I did see some very interesting women leaders coming up. In your opinion, would we ever see a woman PM in Malaysia? Do we have a vice president already in America? And do you have any political aspirations or ambitions?
Okay, so answer the second question first, because that's an easy one. No, zero political inclination. I think politics defies logic. Since I'm a person who goes by logic, I don't think I can survive politics. The second one, okay, so I want to see first how I mean, we used to have a woman leader who was the Minister of International Trade.
Yes.
I mean, Rafida, right? She was a voice of, and then we had, and that was a massive, portfolio, right?
And she's still very vocal.
Yeah. So So we need to first have those kind of women leaders. I remember we had people like Rafida, people like Sharizat, although she managed the women and, women ministry, but she was making great impact. That I remember being in the lobby, parliament lobby, to lobby or to put a stake on the ground about the 30% target for women in boards, and I was there with about 5 or 6 women corporate world together with Sharizat. I don't know. I just want to see more. And I think the fact that now there's this whole political turbulence that we're going through is not helping. But before we can even answer whether or not we will have a woman prime minister, I just want to see women ministers in those kind of portfolios making huge and making sustainable and making high impact.
Quality.
We still, we don't want to have, I want to be a bit more diplomatic here, but, we've got people who need to push even for policies, the women agenda will not go to a level that it needs to be unless there is a higher representation of women in policy making, which is in cabinet, right? And in the whole parliament as well. I was having this conversation in an international panel, and there was the same question: why is it that there are not enough of? Why hasn't there been enough movement in the last 15 years? The whole imperative was so compelling, but why hasn't there been enough movement, a more like a needle movement, inflection point kind of movement? And we were unanimous in saying that until and unless women are in power and willing to make the stick on the ground kind of policy and push for it, which we make strong women leaders, until and unless they are represented well in cabinet and in parliament, we will not get there. And that is something that across the world is lacking, except in some countries, like the countries that you mentioned in New Zealand, in Europe.
Okay. So some interesting questions have turned up. Some suggest that the push for women's representation has been rhetorical all along. What are your thoughts on this?
The intent is not rhetoric. The intent is, like I said, clearly driven from a social economic impact, right? And the cascading of this may be rhetorical in nature. So the intent is not, but the way it is being cascaded, I think, could sometimes fall into this into the purview of it being rhetoric. But it is, change takes time, although it is taking more time than it ought to. And the reason is because, like I said, is because power change happens through power, and power, the corridors of power need to have this kind of impact. If the change is still at the periphery, and it now, in my opinion, is still in the periphery. We have, for instance, when did International Women's Day first start, Jake?
I can't remember.
I don't even know that until somebody highlighted to me just for this. 1911.
Oh my God.
1911, and it was actually set up because it was to fight for this, to fight for gender equality, to fight for women as a human rights, women's right as a human's right. Right? And it's still we are still in a stage where we are still fighting for the same thing, right? So it is rhetoric in the cascading of it, right? But I hope that things will change. And for it to change, like I said, the women who are in power needs to drive that change. And I think the change also will happen from the grassroots, from the ground up. And I'm counting on the millennials. I'm actually quite excited about what happened in the Me Too movement. Now, if you look at the Me Too movement, it was such a long time coming. Right? I mean, we knew what this was happening. And over the years, okay, across the years, we knew this was happening, and we kind of said, okay, we can't talk about it. And it wasn't even seen as wrong. In the first 15 years, it wasn't even seen as wrong. Jake, can you believe it?
Yes.
Right? And
yes.
then in the last 15 years, yes, it was seen as wrong, and they was just starting to talk about it. But you think about it, the Me Too movement, it was so obvious, but it only happened, what was it, like 2 years ago?
Yes.
And what was the trigger point? If you think about it,
yeah, it was a tweet.
It was social media, number one. It was the millennials.
Yes.
It was the millennials who said that, okay, that's it. So I am counting. I mean, there's a lot of perils, and you can argue about the perils of social media, which, I talk about it as well in my the social media or the social dilemma. But the power of championing a cause and escalating a cause, and it could just happen. It could, like Me Too, just happen. It just had a flip of a button. So I'm hoping, and again, I'm a half glass full person, right? I'm hoping that things that we've been fighting for, like women in politics, women in the boardroom, is going to have that flip as well, a flip button. Like what happened in some countries in Europe, what happened in New Zealand, I mean, for those Western countries, it took so long also for the flip to happen. So hopefully for us, not everything will flip at the same time, but hopefully some things will start flipping.
Great answer. I've got some really interesting questions here. I'm going to rattle this off. There's a question that says that I agree that networking is very important, and I try to encourage my team to do it, but they seem uncomfortable and reluctant to do so. I'm assuming these are women. What advice can you give me to influence them?
Okay. You really got to help them with this, right? And I mean, I do this with a I call them also. I say that, why are you not putting yourself out there? You want it. And first of all, I ask them to make the choice. I mean, it's okay. Women, we are blessed with having a choice, and the choice of how far you want to go is always yours. So first is to make that choice. But if you want to have the choice, if you make the choice of climbing up, then networking is a must that you do, right? But networking, you have to also redefine.
It's not so effortless for everybody. Would you think so?
No, it is not. Mm-hmm. And you have to redefine networking for women, right? Mm-hmm. So I even give specific examples to women. Okay, you cannot just go. I mean, even until now, Jake, I cannot go into a cocktail, into a cocktail function and just go there and start talking to people. I'm still uncomfortable with that. Mm-hmm. So the way I do it is that I will I will participate in associations. Like
what are the types of associations you are involved in, which is really interesting?
Well, I started getting involved with things like the PCOM. I was in the industry, PCOM, but but that was kind of natural. The one that I actually took on because I wanted to be just networking, was actually the Malaysian Chamber of Commerce, right? Oh. And I went for it, and I went up to become one of the 3 vice presidents of it. But how do you do it? Is by choosing something, choosing a cause. So I think women cannot be there and be social about it. So choose a cause, like tulip movement, is a cause. And that is a session. I mean, that is a way of networking. You get to know people like you get to know other people. So you like lean-in movement, that's also an association. But you should choose ones that are something which is more gender inclusive, right? I don't know, but you can't do it artificially. You got to choose something that you want to do, that you can control.
Organic, right? It
has to be organic, and it's got something that you can commit to, and you can only commit to if you truly believe in it. If you go in there just for the sake of networking and you've got nothing to contribute, then neither would you yourself find value in it, and neither would your brand come out as well.
So you have to be involved in sort of like a tribe or network. Well, that's what you're saying, right? To enhance this, right?
Yeah, I believe associations is a great thing, and I always attend talks that believe in, not just simply a talk, but I always attend talks. There was one time I wanted to really get network into the business community, because I'm from the tech community. So I always I register myself for things that are organized by the World Bank, for instance, or by the Bank Negara, and I would attend those kind of sessions. But what I would bring to it is the technology, understanding of the technology component, and that is how you start to, grow your influence and grow your circle of influence.
We've got a very interesting question here also. It says, what is your opinion about situation of women left out due to, recognition of their hard work? Some of them work really hard, and this person is saying that they've been left out. For example, if a student, if you're excellent in what you do, but is left out of the people runner due to thinking she's not fit, she's not the fit for the common society. So I'm saying, I think this is they're left out. What this person is trying to imply is left out because of their gender. So what are your thoughts on that?
So it is a function of, it is a factor of multiple facets, right? So first is to look at the person, you yourself. I always ask this: what about you? Have you made it known that you want this? And I learned this the hard way. Well, it was a very reflective moment in my career, because I was working in a multinational. I was doing really well. I know my boss really liked me. And, one day he came to me and he said, Yasmin, I'm happy to tell you that I'm giving you a pay rise. And he gave me a number. And actually, I was quite happy with that number, because I didn't know better, right? But I decided, just at a whim, I decided to say that I wasn't happy with it. I said, yeah, thank you, Wong. His name was Wong. Yeah, thank you, Wong, but I'm actually quite disappointed. And I left it at that. I wasn't disappointed, Jake, but I just, at the whim of it, I just said, I'm quite disappointed. And I saw him panicking. And the next day, he literally doubled that.
So I guess you're going to challenge the status quo, right? So.
You got to ask for it.
Okay,
you got to ask for it. So the first question I ask when a lady comes to me, I ask, have you made it known that you want this? Have you made it known that you want this? And you can make it known through formal ways and through informal ways, because you network. You go out and talk about it. And you can also put it in formal in terms of your career path and so on. But so that's the first question: have you asked for it? And number two is, have you developed enough champions, people who can vouch for what you do? You and your direct boss know about it, but you may not be blessed with a boss who is really good, who want to publicize about how good you are. Some bosses are very selfish. If you're good, they just want to keep you under his or her wing.
They don't want to lose you.
Yeah. So have you?
The stereotype of Malaysia is generally, let's just work hard and hopefully it'll surface. But that's not true, right? You have to brand yourself. Yeah, agree.
Yes, you have to, and you don't have to do it, and you have to do it in a way that is organic to you, that is authentic to you. So like I said, the way I do it is that I put out my thoughts, I put out my initiatives, I put out my opinion. By writing reports or speaking out when you are in a conference, when you are in a meeting. Speak out, lean in, put your hand up. So that's the most important thing. So that's what you can do, what the person can do. But the environment also has to promote this, and the environment, the corporate, has to put a stake on the ground to say that diversity is a business imperative. And that is why things like the 30% club, from the business, but the 30% club, you got to pledge for it. You got to sign up for it. Because when I was working in a multinational, like I mentioned, the first half was nobody was talking about it. The second half, it was very clear. Inclusivity, diversity is a core company value. And when you make that statement, somehow will fall in place. So when I would go and say that, I'm sorry, I've got to go home early because my son is not well, I know that that is permissible, that I will not be penalized for it, because it is a company core value. So a lot of people, I sometimes wonder why people don't want to sign up to the 30% club, the pledge about I champion or diversity I embrace diversity and gender diversity. As a corporate, the first thing you got to do is to sign up for that.
It's fear of change, I guess. So, and change is a very frightening thing, and most, the old boys association and stuff that are afraid of it. So
So that's why we have to challenge those. And that is one of the things for me as a corporate leader right now. I want to continue. I choose to challenge that. Because I have the ammunition. I always say that I do not champion diversity and women in the workforce because I'm a woman. I champion it because I'm a leader, because there are enough proof points about the correlation between diversity and performance. Like I said, when I talk about diversity, Jake, I talk about diversity in multiple facets.
Datuk, your camera is off, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I talk about diversity in multiple facets. First layer you got to peel is gender diversity. The second layer, it's my personal belief and my personal practice, is a racial diversity. Third layer is age diversity. But if you don't go to gender diversity, then nothing else will you can't go to the rest. So the richness of diversity is such a business imperative. So now you got to challenge those who do not embrace it. That means if you don't embrace it, that means there is something wrong with you. Why aren't you embracing it? And that, I think, that is one of the most important change that I have seen throughout, that I can now go and challenge people. Why aren't you embracing diversity? Because of the business imperative.
Fantastic. We have a question which is more something that I think you'll enjoy answering. Gerald says, how do you see digital automation, AI, blockchain, and other upcoming changes in the employment landscape impacting women leadership?
Okay. The question is about leadership in particular. Okay, and that's something I am so passionate about, and thank you so much for that question. Now, the type of leadership that is needed in this world of destructive innovation is a very different kind of leadership that is required in the past. But I alluded to that. In the past, you have a problem and the answer is this, you go and do it, right? Whereas in the coming years, the world is going to be so destructive. Innovation is going to disrupt it, and there'll be waves of innovation. How do you create leaders who are going to be able to ride on the waves of innovation and the waves of disruption and not get caught like a deer in headlights? You think about it, right? And you have seen many companies who were caught like a deer in headlights at such peril. And you have those that are able to ride with the waves of innovation. So what does it take? It's about leadership. And leadership that I think is that, in my personal opinion, what I believe in, is that you need two things. The first one is the fact that this is what Harold Watt actually, and that was the reason why I took on, because I so believe in this concept of positive education. When you go to school, you go to university, you only get taught about actuarial science or about, but are you asked what is your purpose in life? Because if you think about it, that will then make education as a means to an end and not as an end. A lot of young people now see education or university degree as an end, but not as a means to an end. So what is your end? What is your purpose in life? So do you get that question? Do you get it to be triggered that, what are you passionate about? What is your cause? So that's number one, the purpose driven. That is what that is the kind of leadership that is needed. The second thing is about what I call adaptive leadership. And I got this concept from a professor in Singularity University, Professor Amin Tufani. He spoke about IQ, EQ, and now is AQ, adaptive quotient. Right? So the people who are able to comfortably lead and thrive in an environment where the goalpost is ever changing. You know, the rules of the game, you can't even see beyond 3 years. You can't even plan beyond 3 years. I mean, somebody wanted the other day, and when I was in government, you know, we were doing a 3-year planning, right? And then they asked simulation. Can we do a simulation study of 5 years? I said, oh, shit. How can you simulate 5 years? You know? So I mean, that is the kind of leadership that's needed. So I don't know. I hope that answered your question.
That's fantastic. You're talking about Harriet Watt and you know your new position there, and what led to this, and what are you hoping to achieve with this, or you know perhaps redefine the university, or you know your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I've always been very passionate about education. You know, I mean, I think because my parents were teachers, I went to university on a teaching scholarship, by the way, because I chose a subject of science, right? And I was supposed to get, but so I broke free from that contract. But I paid every single cent, by the way, Jake. So no such thing as these PTPTN people who don't want to pay their loan. First thing in life, hutang harus dibayar. So I paid my, I paid my full. So education is something I'm very passionate about. So I've sat in, I've sat in some public university boards, and whenever I was in, whether I was in HP or Microsoft or Dell, I always have an agenda in the university, and all multinationals always have an agenda for university. But where I am right now, and I'm blessed in the position where I can afford to spend time in something that I'm passionate about. So Harriet Watt University is actually a non-profit university. Not many people know that. It's a private university based out of Scotland. And Scotland, they have 2 campuses. And Scotland, it is half of the students are actually there through the Scottish government. It's funded through the Scotland government. And their shareholders' return is not about money. The shareholders' return is about impact that you make. So that's really up what I want to do. And looking at what they have, because it's a global university, even in Harriet Watt University, you can actually enroll in Malaysia for, let's say, an actual science course. And then you can actually spend 1 semester in Scotland and another semester in Dubai. That's our other campus. And you can, it is the same degree. It is the same qualification. And no university, most universities, you have to say, okay, I want to do 2 years here and 2 years there. But with Harriet Watt, you can actually say it's truly a global university. So that's one. That's what I love about it. Second is because it's non-profit. So I don't have, education is always tussling with economic returns. Because education is, on one hand, is about the future, so how do you balance the shareholders' financial returns? But this is a place where, the returns is not financial. The returns is about impact. And the third one is because of the fact that it's purpose-driven education. It's this positive education. Right? So if you combine these 3 things, we now have a beautiful campus in Putrajaya. It's only about 2,000 students, and our students, we exchange students from UK, and our students go to UK and so on. But I think there is a lot more potential, and my aspiration and my vision is for Harriet Watt to actually be a point of inspiration to a lot of the young leaders out there in the world of this disruptive innovation. It's about knowing the technicalities, knowing about what blockchain is going to do, what AI, the impact of AI is, but it's also knowing how technology can impact. I mean, technology and innovation has always been a tool for humans to fulfill 3 motivations. And these 3 motivations remain consistent throughout the centuries. The motivation for power, the motivation for money, or the motivation for good. So what's going to determine whether it is the technology and innovation will be used for good? It's the purpose that is instilled, the purpose about how to solve the planet, sustainability of the planet, how to solve the inequality of economic, the economic inequality. Right? All these things has to be inculcated when they are at this impressionable age of university, or even earlier, but at least, okay, we start at university.
I agree. In fact, your eyes lit up when you were going on about tech and AI and blockchain, and you were in your element.
Yeah.
So alternatively, if you're not doing this, if Datuk Yasmin Mahmood was not the tech geek and this, what do you think would you have been doing? What do you think you would have been doing if you're not involved in tech and the corporate world, what do you think you would have ended up doing? What was the alternate Yasmin in the alternate universe?
That was alternate universe, huh? Interesting, Jake. Nobody has asked me that question. Well, I was when I was young, I wanted to be an air stewardess.
Okay, I'll save my comments
Because
on that.
I wanted to travel, and I love the
Okay.
cutlery of it. But I think I may have been a lecturer
Mm-hmm.
because I went to university, you
Okay.
know, on the teacher scholarship, right? So I could have been, and if I had not had the guts to actually break off my contract, I would have been a maths teacher.
Oh, okay. Oh, so
And God
math
bless
is
the
your,
students if I had been a teacher. Oh my God.
we have a very interesting question here from Gerald again. It says, women make great leaders and definitely good to see you as chairman of HWU, Malaysian campus. The education landscape requires overhauling. I do agree too also because the 4-year degree thing is somehow, when you think about it, it's very outdated. And, it starts from young. I believe our children must be taught leadership, financial literacy, entrepreneurship, blockchain, technology. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the whole landscape of education has to really be disrupted. I mean, what do you teach? Because even from schools, right? You teach history. What is it that make us think that at the age of 14 we should be learning about about European Renaissance?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that I can learn with a Google right now. My kids
Exactly.
will just learn it
Right.
from Google, right? So we just needed to revamp it, but it's not easy. I mean, to revamp the whole education, it's like an institution by itself. So
I think it's going to be very rampant because, again, like I said, I read somewhere Elon Musk was saying, you don't have to be intelligent, you just need Google. So again, like, you can learn, or YouTube, you can learn anything from there. So point is, I love what you said about you have to relook the way what you're teaching our children and stuff. So
yeah.
how do you think this is? With your input now in Harriet,
So that's why I the kind of things that we want to do. The first step, like I said, the fact that a university now thinks about positive education. So every student that goes to Harriet Ward actually has to go through this positive education. So they have to come up with a statement.
Mm-hmm.
What is your purpose?
Mm-hmm.
You must uncover that. And to be asked that when you're 18, 17, I think that's very, very powerful. So you must first invoke what is your passion, right? That's number one. Number two is that you got to focus on soft skills. The functional knowledge, yes, you have to understand it, but to me it's more about the thinking skills and the behavioral skills that need to complement the functional knowledge, like the science of it, the bits and bytes of it, right? But behavioral skill, if I have to choose one behavioral skill that is absolutely needed and crucial, is the art of communication and storytelling.
So piggybacking off what you're saying is, in other words, even from Center 1 to Form 5, our education system is flawed because we are very exam based. We are textbook style education, so we are conformist rather than developing our own ideas and thoughts. So,
but you see the thing is that we realized this, and I was studying the whole education blueprint. We have got the blueprints that actually talks about going to project-based learning, going towards facilitated teaching, right? These are concepts. But to actually make it happen is where it is, even in private schools, it's not as rampant, although it's some change. If you go to the US is not probably, there's a lot of things wrong about the US as well, right? But the one thing right, and you can never dispute the fact that Americans are great storytellers and they are great at communicating and great at marketing, right? Why? That when you are as an American student, when you go to school, and I had a friend, a daughter, what do they call it? Show and tell. Show and tell started from kindergarten.
yes.
You are given a leaf. She was given the task of a leaf, and she has to go and tell a story about the leaf, and she did. Because at a young age, you are so creative, right? So she came up with a story about the live. I can't remember what it was, but it was a very compelling story. So storytelling is a behavioral kind of, to me, is very important. And I think in the Asian context, Malaysia is not alone in this. In the Asian context, we are just not good storytellers. Now, on the thinking skills is also very important. Thinking skills, I call it the critical thinking skills, but maybe the simpler term to it is problem solving skills. The passion to solve a problem through logical, analytical, and creative thinking. Right, so that is what this under the term of critical thinking skills, right? So and how do you actually develop this? It's actually not through teaching; it's through facilitating project-based learning. You give a project, and there is no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong about it, and you're just empowered to come up and say your piece. Now, is there enough will to do that?
Nice. We have this question. It says, what is one decision you wish that you made but you didn't?
I thought that I wanted to do MBA. I felt that I should have continued. I did computer science, right? But I always felt very inadequate and very inferior when it comes to my business skills. And for the longest time, I wanted to do MBA, but I did not do it because I think I enrolled, I ran out of money and I ran out of time to do it. So I've always felt that maybe I should have done it because maybe, it would have been nice to be able to say that I am an MBA, a master's degree holder. But I think now my computer science and applied maths is kind of sexy. So maybe it wasn't such a bad idea that I didn't do that.
I actually did my MBA like about 6-7 years ago in University of Liverpool, and it's the same thought. But in retrospect, if you ask me, would I do it again? No, because I think that from your experience, you got the business acumen. You
learn from it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which school doesn't teach you.
But it's bragging rights, like Jake Gunn. You got master degree,
True. Okay, there's one word or phrase which you will share to inspire all the young women who are afraid to raise up their hands. What would it be? Because in Malaysian context, like you were saying just now that we need to step forward, we need to lean in and all that. But I think most of us are programmed, like you said, the show and tell. And I was thinking about it, and I'm blessed that I have kids I brought up like that who, my daughter came to me and says, "Papa, I want to be an anime artist." I said, "Go for it. Don't even sit for your SPM. Just go to Japan and do it." So because again, like I said, I've lectured marketing students who the whole textbook is outdated and stuff like. So I think we're programmed like that. So what advice would you possibly give somebody who is shy?
I think it's not going to be something like so profound, Jake. I don't think there is any profound way to do it. My advice is just make yourself do it. I had this game with myself, or I just tell myself to do it. In every conference, in every seminar that I go to, I must ask one question. No matter how stupid it is, I just must ask one question, no matter how stupid. And I remember trying this maybe for the first, second, and it was something I tried myself. I was in a conference with Bill Gates when I was in Microsoft, right? It was in Seattle. Bill Gates was having a seminar, and I went up there and I asked a question. Bill, I can't remember. I do remember, but I don't want to repeat it because it was so stupid. But I did it, and until today, I make it a point.
Does it get easier? Does it get easier every time?
Yes, it does.
Does it get easier? It does, right?
Yes,
so
it does.
It's practice, just putting yourself out there and
you just have to do it. You just have to force yourself to do it. First time it's so awkward and you will ask some stupid questions, but it's okay. It's okay. And I noticed that, people, even though I ask not a very smart question, but people will notice me. People will know, that's Yasmin from, and she asked this question. And people are not remember the question that I asked. I mean, if I ask a profound question, it's even better. But if I ask a simple question, pun is okay. You know?
This is really interesting. Now, tell us about your work-life balance. I mean, I know you're semi-retired and stuff like that, and you sit on so many boards, and you're adjunct professor here, you're with area ward, and how do you actually manage your time, and what do you do to relax, or just
Mm. But
completely, yeah.
now it's different, Ajay. I mean, now I'm not full time, so I have lots of free time. What I do now is I learn how to bake. I'm so proud
Oh,
of it. I
nice.
must say this. I learned how to bake. I can make a damn good cheesecake, by the way, and
Okay,
I make chocolate cake.
I'll send you my address. Yeah.
Okay, and I take care of my health now. So I do a lot of weightlifting and all that, right? Go to the gym.
Fantastic. Join the club. Yes.
So three times a week, I have a personal trainer to do it. I cycle, I do boxing, so I'm really into that right now. And of course, I have got so many courses, and I get excited whenever I have meetings with Herod Ward. I get excited when I have meetings with SkyMind. I just came back from JP yesterday, meeting with the SkyMind people, with the Johor state government. So it's really, it's really interesting. But it was really challenging when I was growing up. I mean, now it's different lah. But when I was growing up, what were the things that people always ask is, how did I manage? So my advice would be, number one, you've got to have support. That is what people can do for you. Support from your own personal life. Your husband, your spouse must be supportive. Your family must be supportive, because you have so much guilt, your self-imposed guilt, that if you also have the guilt trip from other people, I don't think you can survive that. Right? So that's number one. You must get the support. Number two is and support also from your organization. Like I said, you must feel that it is permissible for you to say that I'm going to skip the first day of the conference because I have to go for my son's sports day, let's say, right? So you've got to feel that this is accepted. So that is on the support. And then the other part, you just got to be so organized. I mean, women are so good at multitasking, organizing. You've got to have apply the same skills to it. So like for me, when I was traveling so much, there's SOP for my maid. When I traveled, you got, when I come back, unpack, the one that's on the left corner is to be hung back again. The one on the bottom stack would be go to the laundry. So that those kind of things. So you have to just organize yourself, and you've got to have support. But the support part, you cannot underestimate that.
True, very true. So, coming back to you, and do you think that you have left any stones unturned yet, or is there something left for Yasmin to aspire to do? You're sitting this. What do you think is, and how would you want to be remembered?
Now I go with the flow, Jake. I'm just happy to be who I am. I am, honestly, I'm not bothered about what people think of me anymore. I just want to stay in my lane, pursue what I love to do. And I'm at a place where I don't want to, and I don't need to prove anything to anybody. But the causes that I believe in, I'm in it 100%. The cause about, like I said, the leadership. And I chose these platforms, the Herod Ward is about developing leaders of the future. With SkyMind is my passion towards how does artificial intelligence impact people, and my involvement with 30% Club is to talk about empowerment of women. That's what I just want to do. I just want to be remembered as me, as authentic, as the person that I am. I do want to be remembered as a tech geek, as somebody who's really passionate about technology. I want to be remembered as somebody who's made an impact.
Very profound. I've got two more questions for you. One is, what would Yasmin now give, if possibly, advise a 17-year-old Yasmin?
it may sound corny, but it's really, I've been asked this many times. So I actually have given it some thought. So what I would tell my 17-year-old would be two things, right? Number one, I would really, really say thank you, because she was so intense, Jake. I mean, she was so intense and so driven. And I was driven for, and that was one of the things I always tell people, you must find what drives you. And that is why this purpose-driven education is so important to me, because I had what drove me, right? So I had 3 stages of motivation. So that's fair. So I will tell her to, thank you for being so driven, and because of that, I am where I am right now, where I just don't have any regrets, and I really feel blessed because I don't have, in my career at least, I don't have any regrets. Secondly is I would tell her to chill. Oh my God, she was so intense. Just chill, girl. It's just going to work out.
Yeah, one thing I learned from you is today is lean in, which is I also give advice to people. I said, you know what, if you don't ask, you're not going to get. Be prepared to make a fool of yourself and keep, be just keep going at it. And I like the phrase lean in. I think it's fantastic. So any parting words that you want to share to the rest of us that a small thing that can sort of pick up or drive people. There are a lot of people who are grasping at some kind of inspiration. I think you've provided that today. Is there anything that you want to share?
Yeah, well, I just wanna say that I have so much respect for the women out there. I mean, and women always have choices, and be comfortable with your choice, and be is the state of mind is very important, right? I mean, people always say about this work-life balance. I don't think that could ever be, to me, a work-life balance, and I make this very, very, I've been very open about it. It's a state of mind. It's a state of mind. It's all in your head, because you can never have the perfect work-life balance. You just have to be perfect at being a mother at some time, perfect at being a corporate leader at a certain time, and be happy with those choices. I think women are just so tough on ourselves, so just make your choices, do the best that you can, and just be at peace with those. And so that is one. That is our internal struggle, right? And the other part is that I would want women to always continue, and not all women needs to do this, but women who are able to do it always push the agenda. There are a lot of women who do not support other women, and Madeleine Albright says that there is hell. The women who don't support other women, there is a place for them, and that is hell. So I think that is what I would say, and I see this. I see the LinkedIn movement in Malaysia. I see these young people. There is this whole rise event that's happening, and that's being led by Izana Saleh, an amazing, inspiring young lady, and is co-organized with a male. And I like this too, Jake. I like the fact that you are a man, and you are the one moderating me. I think we have to have more men to also be in the movement.
I will share something with you. I'm actually a twin. I have a twin sister, so I know what it's like to. I was a woman before I was born. That's the running joke.
Oh, I didn't realize you have a twin sister. Oh, okay, okay.
I maybe I'm a little bit feminine there,
and that's good. That's a good way to say that.
Totally.
So I guess that's the only. And for me personally, I mean, since the theme is about choose to challenge, right? So I want to end by saying that I choose to challenge. I choose to continue to challenge the status quo, so that women, whatever they chose to do, women can be, that they can be empowered to be the best version of what they choose to be, without any prejudices, without any biases, and with the full empathy and support for what they want to do. So yeah, because I already kind of ended it. I think we're almost ending, right?
Yeah, but that was very profound and inspirational. I feel very inspired also. So I'm sure in the comments we got, it's been fantastic. So I'll pass you back to, and it's really nice chatting with you. Hope to catch up with you sometime and taste your cheesecake.
Initially I was quite intimidated, Jake, because your voice. I'm if I close my eyes and I just hear your voice, wow, this is like being on radio.
No la. It's just me. It's how I speak.
Okay, Jake, thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Datuk Jake, Datuk Yasmin. How we wish the time could be actually extended. There are so much things that we actually are able to get it from the conversation, and of course, there are a lot of reflection. And I find that what Datuk Yasmin have actually mentioned press on a lot of us, yeah, especially on the guilt that we felt as a mother. We are not paying good enough attention to the children, so sometimes we juggle here and there. So thank you so much. Now, before that, yeah, let us actually take a group photo. I need your cooperation to turn on your video. Let's have a great one. Have okay.
Everybody here? Okay.
Okay, you're gonna say when
Yep.
you're ready.
Yes. Okay. I will count by the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Done. Another page. Give me a minute. Okay. So one more page. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
A lot of pages here.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much once again. This is actually really our privilege and honor. We hope that we can actually be in touch with you all again.
All
Yeah, so
right. Thank you.
have
Thank
a
you.
great
Thank
evening
you.
and happy International
Thank you,
Women's Day.
everybody.
Thanks. Bye. Bye. Bye,
Bye.
ladies.